Ready to set the historical record? Dad, time to plant the truth. Hold, good people. Examine the proof. Watch me. Fool 'em all. Fool 'em all. Louie, that's a structural failure waiting to happen. It cannot scientifically be the original. Welcome everyone to the Oz Call. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're not just baking. We're going back to the source, to the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, to settle a debate that has raged 4 decades. What is the original, authentic, gooey butter cake? You see, for years, there's been a version of this story floating around, one that involves a happy accident with cream cheese. It's a convenient tale, a simple story of a baker messing up a coffee cake. It tests a story that has been repeated so often. It has become accepted as fact by many. But here's the thing about facts: they have to stand up to scrutiny. They have to align with science, with history, and with the evidence. And when you apply that scrutiny to the cream cheese story, it starts to fall apart, much like a certain cake under the St. Louis sun. Our journey today is about separating myth from reality, convenience from chemistry. We have our villain, the personification of this misinformation. Screwy Louie, champion of the fake gooey. His version is soft, pale, and relies on cream cheese as a stabilizer. It's easy, it's quick, but is it right? On the other side, we have science. We have the historical record. We have the understanding of how ingredients actually work. My mission, as the guardian of GBC science, is to show you why the original cake couldn't possibly have contained cream cheese. We're going to look at the chemistry of caramelization, the properties of yeast dough, and the historical context of baking in 1904. So, buckle up. We're firing up the time portal and heading back to an era of innovation, steam power, and culinary discovery. We're going to see what happens when Screwy Louie's creamy convenience goes head-to-head with the irreversible chemical laws of baking. This isn't just about a recipe. It's about historical integrity. It's about understanding that some things can't be substituted or simplified without fundamentally changing the outcome. Let's start by establishing the scene. The 1904 St. Louis World's Fair was a monumental event. It was a showcase of human achievement, a glimpse into the future. Imagine the sights, the sounds, the smells. Amidst the grandeur of the Palace of Agriculture and the thrill of the giant Ferris wheel, countless vendors were selling their wares, including bakers from all over. The story goes that a German-American baker, working for a St. Louis bakery, made a mistake. He was trying to make a coffee cake, but reversed the proportions of butter and sugar. Now, this is where the two timelines diverge. In the Screwy Louie version of reality, the baker adds cream cheese to this mix. Why? The story suggests it was to fix the mistake, to stabilize the soupy batter. He bakes it, and voila, the modern cream cheese-based gooey butter cake is born. It's a tidy narrative, but let's pause and engage our critical thinking. Let's put on our scientific goggles. First, consider the ingredients available to a German-American baker in 1904. While cream cheese did exist, it was not the ubiquitous, foil-wrapped block we know today. It was more of a specialty item. More importantly, it was not a standard ingredient in German baking traditions, which heavily favored East Lavandus butter, sugar, and flour. The very foundation of their baking craft was built on these core components. To suggest that a baker, in a moment of panic, would reach for a relatively uncommon ingredient like cream cheese, instead of relying on his traditional training, well, it raises a red flag. Now let's talk chemistry. This is where the case against cream cheese becomes undeniable. The hallmark of a true original-style gooey butter cake is its distinct toffee-like bottom crust. This isn't just a flavor. It's the result of a specific chemical reaction. Caramelization. Caramelization happens when sugar, in this case, sucrose, is heated. The molecules break down and reform into new compounds that give us that beautiful brown color and complex, nutty, buttery flavor. For this to happen properly with butter, the mixture needs to reach a certain temperature, allowing the butter and sugar to separate. The butter fat clarifies, and the sugars are free to undergo this magical transformation. Enter cream cheese. What is cream cheese? It's primarily milk fat, milk protein, and water, with added stabilizers like gums. When you introduce cream cheese into a butter and sugar mixture, it acts as a powerful emulsifier and stabilizer. Its job is to hold everything together, to prevent separation. It keeps the fats and liquids suspended in a smooth, uniform mixture. And right there, you have the scientific contradiction. Louis's cake is soft. Cream cheese blocks the chemical pathways. The very ingredient that supposedly fixes the cake is the exact thing that prevents the signature toffee crust from forming. The stabilizer inhibits the separation of butter and sugar, which is essential for caramelization. It creates a cake that is uniformly soft and pale on the bottom. There's no Maillard reaction, no caramelization. You get gooey, yes, but you don't get the yeasto gold, that beautiful, crisp, chewy, toffee edge that is the soul of the original cake. So when JzenOz arrives on the scene at the 1904 fair, armed with his holographic analysis unit, he's not just stating an opinion, he's presenting scientific proof. He shows the crowd the molecular structure of sucrose, C12H22O11, and explains the irreversible chemical law of caramelization. He holds up his slice, wheat hits dark, beautiful toffee edge, and declares it yeasto gold. This isn't just a prettier cake, it's the physical evidence of a specific chemical process, a process that is impossible in the presence of cream cheese. Imagine our side-by-side comparison. On one side, Louis's cake, soft, pale, structurally uniform. It's the result of a stabilized, emulsified mixture. On the other side, the Oz cake, a firm, yeast-leavened crust on the bottom, with that distinct, dark, crystalline toffee layer, all topped with a rich, gooey filling. This isn't a matter of preference. It's a matter of two fundamentally different chemical outcomes based on two fundamentally different sets of ingredients. The truth is, cream cheese does not equal toffee. It can't. Science forbids it. And now, for the climax of our historical showdown, the heat check. The 1904 St. Louis World's Fair took place over a hot summer. What happens to these two cakes under the heat of the Missouri sun? The original style cake, with its sturdy yeasto base and caramelized sugar foundation, holds its structure. It might get a little softer, a little gooier on top, but the base remains intact. It was a cake designed to be stable. But what about Screwy Louie's cake? The one built on cream cheese and a cake mix base. Cream cheese has a relatively low melting point. The stabilizers that give it that smooth texture at room temperature start to break down as the temperature rises. The entire structure, which relies on the cream cheese to bind it, begins to file. It sags. It weeps. It turns into a sweet, soupy puddle. The very convenience of the cream cheese becomes its fatal flaw. We see the cartoon sun beating down on Louis's brightly colored booth. His fool's gooey begins to dramatically sag and melt right off the platter. The crowd gasps. Louis's smugness evaporates into horror. He shrieks, "The science! The science is real. The heat of the truth, ... It's all melting." And in that moment of gooey meltdown, we get our confession. Louis collapses next to the puddle of his failed creation and admits the truth. I promoted convenience over scientific integrity. We must pay attention to science, because some people are just screwy with the facts. This is the core of the Oz call. Science is absolute. History is written in evidence, not in convenient stories. The original gooey butter cake was born from a mistake with a traditional yeast coffee cake, not a shortcut with cream cheese and cake mix. The result was a marvel of chemistry, a crisp, toffee-like crust created by the caramelization of butter and sugar, something that is chemically impossible to achieve when cream cheese is present. So when I stand there, victorious, holding a perfect slice of the authentic cake, and say, the Oz call is simple, facts are facts. Your recipe cannot scientifically be this cake. It's not an attack. It's a conclusion based on evidence. It's a call to look past the marketing, past the simplified stories, and to appreciate the science and history behind what we eat. The story of the original gooey butter cake is a story of German baking tradition, a happy accident, and beautiful, delicious chemistry. It's a story that deserves to be told correctly. The cream cheese version is a different cake. Entirely a fine cake, perhaps, but it is not the original. It is, scientifically and historically, an imposter. That's why I wrote the book, The Ozcall at the 1904 World's Fair. It's a deep dive into the history, the science, and the definitive proof. We reflect on the evidence so that you can make an informed decision. Others can present their opinion, but they can't change the facts. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time and science. Remember to always question, always analyze, and never be fooled by creamy convenience. The truth, like the perfect toffee edge, is worth the effort. Be sure to subscribe for more scientific deep dives and historical facts. Until next time, stay curious.